Greetings YouTube and welcome to my latest weapons build. I've decided to take this scraper and turn it to something a little bit more dangerous. Now, you can tell this scraper has seen some loving. And this is not my tool originally. I got this for free. This was offered on Craigslist with a bunch of other stuff. I got this. I got some webbing, which I mostly picked up because it had a bunch of D-rings and a nice plastic buckle on it, which I can use for both repair work, potentially as a strap on something, and some music, like 4 CDs I got for nothing, including some Sean Colvin. But this was like something I picked up, and even though it's at an angle, because it's designed for scraping, I think I can turn this into something. Now this is a scraper, so if you were to loosen paint or varnish or finish on something with like a solvent, you would then use this to scrape it off, and it's got 2 edges, so when you've got one dull, you turn it over and use the other one, and this thing is very, very dull. It's been thoroughly used. But I like the overall vibe. It's got a nice feel to it, and this is one cohesive piece. In addition, this is a ubiquitous tool. Lots and lots of people have this in their homes now, and if you were scavenging, very likely you could stumble upon something like this. And it's so light, it may get originally overlooked as something being useful at all. But then I have this small metal plate, and this thing is not probably great steel. I think it was probably something like a small-scale lally plate, maybe. I'm not positive. I can't even remember where I picked it up. I think I might have got it at an estate sale many years ago. It's been hanging around in my collection for quite a while, looking for a project. And this may well be the project. So I'm not going to mount it like this. I'm going to mount it like that. And I'm going to take this off, take some measurements, and cut off this so that the whole thing will sit kind of like that. So you will end up with 3 points sticking out, and then I'll put bevels on the edges. This is not going to be, I'm not going to put edge, but I'm going to put like 45s on there to make 3 nice points. And that should be a decent weight without being overly heavy, because this is not too heavy. I would take some measurements. I'll take some weights on this. Let's actually, I can do that right now. Grab my scale, which is behind me. So what do we got? Alrighty. So the plate is 357 grams, and the tool is 271. So 350, 271. You know, that's a decent combination as it is. But I'll be losing this amount of weight, not much, admittedly, and taking off some of this as well. So we're going to end up with a slightly less than that amount when it's combined. I may have to drill some holes. I'm going to have to drill some holes in this, and I don't know how the holes are going to lay out in this yet. And because I'm going to need at least 2 holes, because I don't want it to move. But we'll see how many I can salvage from this. I don't think I'm going to be able to salvage any holes from this thing. I think I'm going to have to drill just brand new ones, which is fine. And I'm going to end up with a little tiny scrap here, which I may keep around as a spacer or a washer of some variety in the future. It'll be too small for much anything else. But I've found that sometimes I find uses for little tiny pieces of scrap metal to fill spaces in. But when you have 2 things that are like a short distance like this, that can be enough to give it, fill that space to give it more stability. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is disassemble this thing, and hopefully I can get it apart. It is in very rough shape. We're going to see if I can get that thing out of there. And then we'll take some measurements. And change my battery. So we have the plate now cut, and I drew a line across here with a small angled measuring device, small square. I really love this thing. It's got this little thing comes out. It's a scribe. It's got a level built into it. Who makes this thing? Empire makes this thing. I picked it up at an estate sale for a song. I had to pay nothing. I paid like nothing for this thing. It was awesome. And I love this little tool. It's very handy. It's a good scale for a lot of the projects I work on, and it was very useful for drawing that line. So it was just beyond the hole, and this just fits now the width here. Oddly, this is 2.41 inches wide, so 410 thousandths wide, which seems like a strange width, but what the heck, it is what it is. So that now sits there, And as you can see, I'm going to be able to reuse that hole, which is a threaded quarter 20, which is awesome because I have lots of quarter 20, so I'll be able to reuse that with a washer of some variety. And then I'm going to drill 2 holes here because I want 3 holes. I want a triangle because that's the most stable design I can come up with. So now I'm going to have to mark in where I want those 2 holes to be. They're just going to be right through this, and I think this is just aluminum, so it shouldn't be difficult to drill at all. So mark those in, drill them, and once I get them drilled, clamp the whole thing together, and then transfer those holes to this, so that I can then drill the 2 holes through this. This stuff, I don't know what it is, but it wasn't particularly nice cutting. My angle grinder did not like it, so I don't know what this metal is. But I am glad I have a small source of water down here. I have this small cooler here, which I keep full of water because I use it to top off my my little cup there, which I use for like dipping small objects I'm cutting so they don't overheat. And so I was able to actually use this just to keep dumping it in there to cool this piece of metal off. Obviously not drinkable any longer. This is just an angle cooler. I don't even know where I got it from. It's just very handy because it's got a little spigot right there. I actually plan on placing a sink down here at some point, but I have not got around to doing that. I am not a plumber by trade, but I do have a drain that I can use, so I can drain the thing out of my basement safely. And it's PEX tubing, so I should be able to just cut it and put new connections into that without too much difficulty. And I actually already own the sink. It's a freestanding sink, which I will bolt to the floor. But at this point, I don't have that set up, so I've got this little thing at the moment, which is, for the scale of things I work on, is working okay. Alrighty, so next I'm going to mark this thing up with the holes, and then begin the process of drilling here and then drilling here. Here we have a dry fit, so that's what it's going to look like when I'm finished, and those are the 2 holes I've just drilled all the way through this. So I went through the aluminum tool head itself, and then I went through the steel plate. Now, I had a hard time cutting this with my angle grinder, and I'm not sure why, because it drilled really nicely. So maybe I just need to change the disc on my cutter. Sometimes I've had discs, you get past a certain point in using them, and suddenly they just kind of crap out on you. But they're not expensive, they're like $1 a piece, so it's not like a big burden. But yeah, that's probably going to be the washer I go with. I just happen to have that washer kicking around. It's from another project I had. I don't even remember where that washer came from. But it's good enough, it's large enough that I can really kind of center it right in the middle. It'll give it I think a nice vibe, and that screw is a perfect fit, so that's the screw I'm going to go with. But that won't be doing the main holding. The 2 here will be doing the main holding because they'll be going all the way through, which will give it a very secure connection when I'm finished. So now that I have the dry fit done, it is now time to start putting bevels on these 3 edges. And this is a pretty thick piece of material, so that's not going to be quick. So I can't figure out what would be easier to use my grinding stone or to use my metal removing disc on my angle grinder. I don't know, maybe I'll do an experiment. I'll try one of these small ones and see how long it takes on my grinding wheel, and then I'll try the other one with the angle grinder and see if there's a difference. The grinding is now complete, so we have roughly 45-degree angles on all 4 sides. I said 3 before because I was looking at the points. My brain is saying those are 3 points, and there are 3 points, but there are 4 sides to make those 3 points. Yeah. Apparently my my numeric slight dyslexia kicks in. I will frequently say a number in my head incorrectly, but write it correctly. It's kind of disconcerting, but yeah, I do that kind of thing all the time. So there we go. So now I need to find a couple of bolts that are right size. I already got that one taken care of, and then I think I'm going to use cap nuts on this just for fun, you know, some acorn nuts. So just for fun. And I'll put them on this side. I'll put the bolt heads on this side because that'll give it a slightly smoother look on that side when I'm finished. Because this one is almost perfectly flushed. I don't have to do anything to it. And that'll give it, I think, a little bit more visual weight on this side overall. And I think that's gonna do what I want it to do. So now it's gonna need to be finding some bolts, and if I have to, grinding them down to make them the correct length. And then it's assembly time. So here's the finished piece. And I like the way that looks. The bolt heads kind of blend in with the overall gunk on the back. But on this side, we've got all that nice, bright, shiny metal showing up against the darker plate itself. And I think I really like the way the vibe on this thing looks. Now, let's see what this thing weighs. $571. That's not bad. $571. So, you know, a little bit more than half a kilo. So this is a nice, fast weapon. I find myself most comfortable holding it with the on the inside. Just seems to give me the best balance. And this would be very effective. It's going to be fast. It's going to have a really nice impact. You can do some thrusting with it, though it's mostly going to be an impact kind of thrusting, kind of the way a Kubaton in your hand would be kind of making an impact, you know, like a knuckle duster kind of thing. You're not going to be doing any real cutting, though. You obviously could split skin with this. But yeah, I like the vibe on this, the patina of the old plate. And again, I don't know what that was from, and I think I got it from an estate sale years ago. And this, which was a perfectly free scraping tool, and I'm sure that the person that gave this away would be somewhat surprised to see what I've done with this thing today. It is not what it was originally. Now, one thing I did notice I hadn't noticed originally is that the scraper plate actually had 4 edges, because 2 of them wrapped over this side and 2 were facing that way, so you could actually have 4 edges. And I saved the blade in case I might want to be able to use it for a washer or a spacer or something in the future. But yeah, I think this is a scraper mace, so I think I'm going to call this a Scrace. I know that sounds a little weird, but yeah, I'm going to call it a Wasteland Scrace, just for fun. So yeah, this has been the completed project. I'm quite happy with how it turned out, and I hope you are too. If you don't follow me on DeviantArt and Instagram, you should. DeviantArt is the home of permanent pictures for my builds. And Instagram is where I post free things I find, bargains I don't buy when I'm out hunting, just weird stuff I find, sometimes pictures from estate sales, and of course cute cat pictures, and who doesn't love a cute cat picture? Okay, so I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you'll be back for the next one.